What's going on, YouTube people? I know, right? T5. Good Lord. How many videos are we going to make about the T5? I don't know. How many T5s do we have? This right here, I'll make this one short and sweet. This right here is a T5 that David got. It's actually supposed to be a Z-spec, and like I say, it's supposed to be a Z-spec. It's the neutral code switch deal. Z-spec that he got. Sorry, I'm distracted. And we're going to do the cluster support and all this kind of other stuff. But first, you know what we got to do? We got to crack a delicious. Oh my God. Seriously, I literally do that every time I drink one of these. Damn, that is good. How can it be so good? Damn, my Billy Glidden picture's getting messed up. All right, gotta pull the shifter off, break it open, see what we got. The weird thing is it has an aluminum bearing retainer on it. Someone obviously put that on there, I suppose, so we'll know more in a minute. Just stop. All right, we took the shifter off. Someone had already taken the shift block apart, and this thing is, I don't know, is locked in gear. This thing will not, I put a dowel in, it will not come out of it. So we're just going to pull the tail shaft off and then pull the top cover out and see what's going on in here. So, but this thing does not want to move out of gear. Got the top cover off. I've already been checking out the shift fork stuff. Everything looks good. The second gear one's got some wear on. It's got a scuff right there. Here's the dealio with, look at this thing, man. This thing is freaking crammed into fourth. I mean third. Jesus, sorry. I'm trying to look at the crap, man. I mean that thing. That thing is. That bad boy is in there. So, I wonder if, I mean, that thing does not, sorry. Oh, God, I don't want to move. Okay, well, you know, hey, we'll just get this thing apart, find out what's going on. This was the old transmission, I guess I didn't mention that was in Johnny's car. Check out that shift fork pad on second gear. He's been killing that thing. Now, full disclosure on this, when this transmission was pulled out, there was no shim on the for the bearing retainer. There was no shim inside. They just had the race. The shim was on the outside. Now, you know, Johnny didn't put it together like that. It was done, and this also had a steel bearing, aluminum bearing retainer. It's supposed to have steel. So that could have been contributing to some of the issues. Lucky it honestly didn't tear the transmission up. But so we got the cluster support on. Yay. Pretty good. We'll take that. So I probably didn't run this one quite as tight as I normally do, but still got some good drag on it. I'm gonna put the shift fork pads on. David likes using the brass ones. There's some in here somewhere. There's two, but he's got another pack. There we go. Sorry. There we go. Put some of these on, and we got the slider up. Need to work that a little bit and see exactly kind of what's going on. So anyway, all right. First things first. Okay, we've got it basically all put back together, and we got to tighten that up quite a bit. Since we didn't have a shim to start with, and we're starting with a new bearing retainer, we just threw one in just so we'd have a number to work with. And So now we've got our other shims out, and we'll get our little caliper and start measuring it up. But other than that, went back together. I don't know what the third gear, that thing was just locked in, but once I got it apart, it feels, right now, well, I'll have to do it on the stand because I got it just freewheeling here. But once we get that shimmed up and sealed up with some RTV, hand puppets showing you all the moves, David will be ready to bolt this thing in and go to ripping. So this transmission is going to go in the blue turd, his 86 SSP car. So should be fun. Hopefully it shifts pretty good, and we'll be out there ripping on that rig. So, oh, hold on. Sorry, Mark. We cannot have Canada like that. There we go. All right. Let me shim this baby up. All right, you YouTube monkeys. We have got this thing buttoned up. Hold on. Good Lord have mercy. Oh my gosh. All right. Got it all buttoned up, pretty straightforward. You guys see me do this a bunch. It's pretty tight. First, second, third, fourth, block of wood fell, fifth, reverse. Okay, everything's looking good. Oh, except this block of wood, and that rhymes. So I think David will be ready to rip on this thing. Hold on. These cars are really quiet. All right. Good deal. Hopefully it works good, but it's ready to go. I honestly have no idea where this video is going to end up. It could end up in a junkyard video, a State of the Union video, it could end up in any video. But it will end up in a video. So, all right, well, I guess that's a wrap on this one. Heck, we still got another one we got to do. Got to do the exact same thing for Michael on one of his. So, hey, this is Z-Spec also. It's like we got a bunch of these things floating around, I guess. All right, well, that's it. I hope you guys, I don't know, whatever. I hope you're enjoying, whatever, man. Who cares? Just keep churning out the crap videos. No worries. Hey, welcome to another episode within an episode of T5 with friends. Or maybe it's T5 for friends. All right. What are we doing here? Yay, I know, everyone freak out or make a face. We've got some, yet another T5 transmission. This is Pirates. It's allegedly a Z-Spec. And we're just gonna do the upgrade stuff to it. The billet cluster, the keys, that kind of stuff. Bronze shift pads. I think he went all out though. Hold on a second. Steel bearing retainer. Should already have one on there. Why does he think? When I bought, back in the day, the Z-Specs, or back when we called them the heavy duty world class, they came with steel bearing retainers. We got cluster shims. We got the cluster support. Looks like every other one. We've got bronze shift pads. We've got billet keys. Oh, that's right, he didn't buy the springs. And we've got, he went all out. He got the bronze shifter cup. So, wow. He spent all the money. So, that's what we've got going on. So, let me start tearing it apart or get it down a little bit, and maybe I'll show a little bit. I've shown you guys this stuff before, but maybe I'll film a little bit more, I don't know. All right, quit talking, get to work. This is one of the things when I talk about shimming it up. This is before we shimmed it. Hold on. You see how much movement that has? That is a lot. That is a lot of flex. And that's not just, this is flexing. And as you know, it ends about right here, but that's going to allow, that's going to allow the main shaft to try and move around. You've got a natural joint right here. So when you shim them up kind of tight with the bearing retainer shim, where they don't have that, you're getting rid of that flex point. And when it doesn't flex, when it flexes, it wants to ride up. The gear wants to ride off the cluster, and that causes it to strip the teeth out. So Hand Puppet knows about all these things. So, okay, of course, that's just an opinion. I'm sure there's people are gonna, whatever, but that's just my opinion on on the T5s. And this is one of the main things that you want to try and get rid of. We're going to unbolt the shifter, and then we're going to knock the roll pin out of the shift block. You want to make sure it's in neutral before you do that. We'll knock the pin out, then we'll take the tail shaft bolts loose, and then you pull the whole assembly out. The whole tail shaft, the shift block, everything just come off. And I don't have a Mountain Dew, but we will have a Mountain Dew in this segment of the video. I promise you. What do you think, Hand Puppet? Wow, I sound like a reality TV guy. What do you think, Hand Puppet? I think it sounds good. All right, let me get to work. Oh, it is 5 after 10. Lunch is at 11, so we'll have to take a little break. Okay, guys, quick recap. My mistake. This is not a Z-Spec. I thought this was Pirate Z-Spec. It is not. It is a regular World Class that he bought from Mir. And nobody drained the fluid out of it. He thought, anyway. So before we made a huge mess, they had the shifter on with some RTV. We've already knocked the roll pin through. And then we've already got the tail shaft cover bolts loose. And this whole assembly will come out, and it'll just be the rail left and the top cover. So I want to get that off real quick. It's getting close to lunchtime. I got off the phone with Pirate, and I was asking him about the transmission. He said, no, it's not the Z-Spec. I went, oh, it's that other transmission. So, all right, that a little bit of confusion on my part. So I apologize. That's what happens when you don't have the Mountain Dew. So let's let me get this tail shaft off, and let's get the top cover off, see what we got inside. We've got our tail shaft off, and you know, nothing strange so far. Still got the plug from when they put the tail shaft stuff on. Other than that, we'll pull the top cover off and see what's going on inside. Top cover's off. Everything looks pretty good considering. So nothing really obvious or anything. So now I'll pull the bearing retainer off, and then we'll pull the input out. You'll notice how it's got a half moon cut right here. That's so it will clear the cluster and come out, and then all the needle bearings will fall out. It is the next day. We had some stuff to do yesterday, actually just family stuff, but you saw how far we got. No big whoop-de-doo, but I would not deprive anyone of the sight or sound of delicious Mountain Dew being cracked and poured. There is not anything in the known universe that comes in a 12-ounce can or container better than that. It's just facts. Sorry. David likes to quote, it's just science. That's science right there. The intake I just had of Mountain Dew just sucked the door closed. It's not everything that you can drink that can make you feel like a brand new human being. So enjoy one if you can. All right, so what we're gonna do today is I'm gonna pull the main shaft out. You guys see me do this about 84 different times. So it should be just as boring as it always is. I'll pull the main shaft out. We're gonna start looking at doing our little modifications. Everything looks pretty decent so far. So let's get moving. We did this one a little bit backwards by pulling the main shaft out, or pulling the input out. But I wanted to really look at the main shaft just to make sure everything was good there, and it is. Now we're going to knock this roll pin out, and we're going to take this snap ring off, and then we'll be able to remove the shift fork and fifth gear all as one assembly. You guys see me do this multiple times, but that is our next plan of attack. Then we can pull the main shaft. Hand puppet, show us how to do it.
The main shaft will then come out, and then we can put the billet keys in on 3/4.
Okay, maybe I should do the narration. Hand puppet, I just don't think he's cut out for that. He'll just do the pointing, I'll do the narrating. And then we're going to pull the main shaft out, and we're going to put the billet 3/4s in. So there we go. And we'll do the cluster support. Let's get to work. All right, we got our dowel knocked out. Hand puppet.
We got her down now.
Hold on. We got a damn dowel knocked out. You gotta get off the dude, bro. Golly, wipe that off. We also pulled the snap ring up. Now these are basically flat on one side and a little beveled on the other. Flat side goes against the gear, so when you pull it off, I usually just lay it face down, back up. So, and then, like I've said before, oh God, this one's stuck. If possible, you want to, oh crap, you want to pull it off without everything coming apart on it, because things can get janky. There we go. Come on, girl. There we go. There we go. All right, see? You want it all to come apart basically as one piece, so it doesn't, like I've said before, so it doesn't all blow apart. Doesn't all blow apart, and you got to put it back together. So I'm going to lay that off to the side somewhere, like right there. And then we can take the main shaft out. And sometimes when you're taking these out, there's a little bit of finagling around the gear selector, and there it is. All right, boom. I'm gonna go put this on the vise. We'll be right back. We've still got quite a bit of fluid in our transmission since nobody drained it. Pirate, thank you very much for that. Nobody drained it. I would also like to point out that this transmission was painted Chevy orange at one time, and after McNugget, we know what that's all about. So anyway, all right, our next thing we'll do is we'll knock these tabs off to take this piece of crap retainer off and put this awesome retainer on. So all right, hold on. First thing, oh boy, yes. I know we're out of the shot, but Mountain Dew needs no shot. All right, let me shut you guys off. Like I say, I'm gonna tap these off and pull that out, and we'll start getting ready to put this on. One more time, we've talked about this before, about taking the third gear off so you can do the keys. In this one, we talked about how you've got to sometimes press them off. This one is kind of, oh man, I don't want to pull too hard. I don't want this, oh man, I'm afraid it's going to just blow off. So I need to get a thicker screwdriver or another pry bar. All right, here we go, right here. Let's see how this goes. Oh yeah, there it comes. I will say that this was possibly the toughest of the ones that I've pried off. All right, we are testing our bearing retainer. This is our factory shim. It was a 119. It was too tight. It had pretty good little bit of drag. We had a 109 in our pile, so we're going to put that on and tighten it down and see how it feels. No play, feels good. So we'll just go with that and put a little thread locker on it. Be ready to roll. Here's another little thing I wanted to talk about. These are the brass shift fork pads, and this is a factory one. You'll notice that the factory ones have these nubs or locators in them, along with the actual shift fork has them as well. And the brass ones do not have them. So sometimes when you're putting these on, you have to give them a little, hold on, there, get in there, a little squeeze with the pliers. I also like to put just a tiny bit of thread locker on them just to kind of help hold them in place until you drop them in. And I've actually gotten away from using these. I've smashed a couple. They're not all created equal. The ones that I've bought from Amp Performance seem to fit a little bit better. I've bought some from some other places that I just didn't really like the fit. So that's just another little thing. And again, just my opinions. By no means is this the end-all, begin-all of T5 stuff. These are just little things that I've used or whatever, and things that I personally like or don't like. Obviously, David and Michael like them, so they're using them. Pads are on. They all went on pretty nice and tight, so pretty happy with that. But anyway, that is now done. We got the cluster. We just got to put a little thread locker on it, and we'll be done with that. And then we can do the billet keys. Michael, you don't want to order these without springs. He got some. They didn't come with springs. The thing is with the springs is that, hold on, sorry guys, I'm doing this one-handed. Hand puppet is getting a workout today for sure. Okay, here's the dealio. The springs are double-ended, okay? The factory springs typically are not double-ended. They only have one hook. So these, or at least the ones that Michael got are different. They're actually got little inserts in them. You can see that right there. The ones that I use, they're flat. They look a little bulkier. So, well, you know, there you go. You learn something every day, little differences in product. So those are pretty nice. We might actually be able to use the factory spring since it's got that hook in it. We can hook the factory spring in that. We may just do that. So we'll know when we take it apart. We've got a little wind blowing around here with our fans. But this is what we did. We pulled both the springs out, flipped it, pulled the other spring, and then we just pulled out the factory keys. They are in there. And we just dropped in our new billet ones. And then we hooked the clip, and it's got enough meat over here. So now we're going to flip it over, and you want to run the key or the spring in the opposite direction of the other spring, so they're kind of, one spring's going this way, the spring will go that way. And then we'll slide it back together. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Might have to press this gear back on. You also want to remember that the beveled end, this bevel, goes to the front of the transmission. So, all right. We've got fifth gear tapped back on. You also want to keep an eye on the shift lever and the selector inside whenever you're doing this. Make sure, because it'll make sure it's rolled over so the dowel hole stays lined up. Also, you have to manipulate the main shaft a little bit with the bearing race and all this kind of stuff. But went back on. We already got our snap ring on. Let's put our dowel in, and then we'll be ready to go ahead and just initially we'll put the input in, and then we can drop. We're on the home stretch. Put the speedo on. Good to go. once again, I'd also like to point out that when I'm messing with a 5th gear shift fork, I like to brace it with something like this piece of wood when I'm either taking the dowel out or putting the dowel or roll pin back in. Some people like to chase the dowel. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. In this case, I didn't. But I like to do that so you're not just beating on this, you're beating on this shaft and everything, because it doesn't have a ton of real support in there. So anyway, just a quick one of Tusson's tips. Oh, I said I'd never be back. Oh, we've got the, we transferred the old shim. We checked it. It was a 37 and shim, and put the race in and just bolted it on. Then we got the top cover. You want to make sure you've got your shift fork rail lined out, so when you put the top cover on, the block and everything slides together. And we've got it set down. We've got the 2 shoulder bolts run in, and then or just set in. We'll do the other ones and be ready to have that on. Then we can start putting the tail shaft on. I apologize for the fan noise, but it's hot. I just wanted you guys to see my nifty mechanical impact. That's right. You guys talk about me needing Whataburger sponsorship. Somebody get Milwaukee to send me a, or better yet, whoever Harbor Freight's using, send me a little 1/4 incher, and I'll use it. You know. But until then, we just go old school, man. Like I say, America was built. Believe it or not, millennials, America was actually built without electric impacts. And to be perfectly honest, they built stuff better back then than they build today. It was tougher, lasted longer. Just saying. I mean, speaking of that, I'll have to do a little something. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna do that right now, just as a special treat for some of you guys. Okay, this is a little off topic, but since we were talking about that, check these bad boys out. This is Craftsman, when it's got the big C that goes all the way under it. You probably can't hear it. You hear the action on that? You hear that? These were made in like 1930s, 40s. That thing right there, shoot. Let me tell you something. You break that, you ate a lunch that day. This thing, look, listen to that action. Are you kidding me with that? Now this, let me tell you, look at that grip. This right here, they ain't a damn thing they got at Harbor Freight that can outdo this thing. They could drop the building on this and it ain't gonna hurt it. You could tear the building down with this if you want to. That's old school right there, kids. Those are right there legit. Jake got these from his great grandfather. It ain't no big thing, but this is the month of July. His birthday was on July 4th. He didn't make it to this one, but he would have been 102. He was 101 years old when he passed away. That guy got all the good out of it. But these babies right here, I told Jake, don't ever get rid of these. Not because they're collectors, but just because they harken back to a time when they built stuff. Craftsman didn't need a lifetime warranty back then. It went without saying. They didn't have to tell you that. You knew it. That's legit. That's legit, kids. So anyway, that's that's kind of old schoolish. So as a matter of fact, I'll tell you something. Let me get this home. This video may be a little bit long, but by God, look at that. 2019. And we're literally using a wrench, a ratchet, which has moving parts, that was built in the 30s or 40s. I looked it up. We're using it to bolt together a transmission. It don't get no more legit than that. Anyway, that's awesome. So, okay, everybody's zoned out by now. There we go. We got the top cover on. Clean up a little excess. David and Michael are much more, they're fancier than I am, so we gotta make things look a little better for them. There we go. Let's get that all nice and tidy. All right. So now we're going to get ready to put the tail shaft on. Woo! All right, guys, ready to put our tail shaft on. Again, I apologize for the fan noise. It's hot. Okay, there's a few little things here. Number one, this right here sometimes can be an issue. lining up in the tail shaft right here, that can be a little bit of a deal sometimes. So be aware of that. Every now and then you may have to give it a little, use a thin screwdriver, give it a little pry or something to get it to push on. Number two, when we get, I like to put a little lube on the rail just to help it slide through the tunnel. We've already finger painted the RTV onto our tail shaft. Now we will put this on. You need it in neutral. You also have to be careful not to get it. Now we get it right here. The tip of the shaft is just sticking out. Hey, family channel. You put the spring in the shift block, you put the ball, and you set it right in the center. You push it down, and then you push it all, in theory, it all kind of goes, come on girl. It all kind of goes, okay. It all kind of goes together. We got it popped in. The issue, this has been probably about 4 or 5 minutes since I turned the video off. The issue was that the 5th gear rail was moved a little bit. The top 2 bolts are wet. In other words, they are actually come out into the case. So you want to put a little something on these. All right, sweet. But yeah, when you're trying to put the tail shaft on these things, sometimes it can get frustrating, but it's always something simple. Like I say, in this case, it was just the 5th gear rail was not in the position that it needed to be in, and once we kicked that up, popped right on. So, all right. Well, I'm going to finish putting these bolts in, and then we'll. If I had a 1/4 inch impact, my God, you know how fast this would be? It would be super fast. I mean, super fast. We're getting ready to shim. As you can see, we have a fair amount of play. We also put Pirate's fancy bronze shifter cup in there. Woo! That's race car stuff right there. That guy is a gear jamming maniac, and that's all his secrets. I'm giving all his secrets away. We had a 38 in it. We put a 49. Now, granted, I got it in gear right now, and it's tight. I think we're gonna run it through the gears for a second and see how it looks. We got our old shifter bolted on it, and see how it feels with the gears. We got it all, I think, ready to go. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, and reverse. Reverse, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. There we go. All right. So the hands are all. All right, I think we're good. Okay, well, this is gonna wrap it all up. Hand puppet, get out of that hole. I swear, you gotta keep an eye on this guy. Okay, that's gonna wrap it up. This is a long video. It's a lot of T5 stuff. It's a lot of boring garbage. If you watch the whole thing, bless your freaking heart. You're a true subscriber to Substandardness. So maybe you learned a little bit. Maybe it helped you out a little bit. Maybe it made you where you're not scared to work on your T5 or modify it or do whatever to it. They're not super complicated. Again, the Bob Hanlon DVD, one of the best things you could ever buy. And having a few of the proper tools to do all this makes things a little easier as well. Most of the parts are available on eBay or National Drivetrain or Anaheim Gear. They're all over the place, not hard to find the stuff that I'm using. And I guess that's going to wrap this one up. So you know, I was going to say, until next time on the Substandard Leader. Until next time on Substandard Leader, Foxbody videos. We'll see you guys later on. And keep on banging these T5s. Oh, that would have been a misgear. All right, cool. I honestly don't think Mom's gonna really like that. And I've already yelled at you like 3 times. Allie! Allie!